Hello and welcome to the Socially Ambitious Podcast. I'm your co-host Liv.
I'm your co-host Jess.
And I'm your co-host Anna.
On this show, we'll be delving into all things social media, delegation, and influencer marketing.
Join us for insightful conversations on mastering work-life balance, pursuing your passions, and crafting the life you've always dreamed of.
Get ready for actionable tips and empowering discussions. Okay, hi. Oh my God, I am so excited for this today. This is a very special episode. And I think I should note that we are recording this on International Women's Day, which I think makes it even more special. I am here with my coach, Claire. I'll let Claire introduce herself. Claire, who are you? What do you do?
Yay. Hi. I'm so excited to be here. I just adore you. It's such an honor, and how special on International Women's Day. I love it. We didn't even plan that.
No, not at all. But here we are.
Yay. So I am a business coach for women, and my clients call me the dream doula. So I help you take your idea and make it a reality, whether that is creating a 6 or 7 figure coaching business, a travel business that takes women all over the world, whether you want to create a wallpaper company, an olive oil brand, whatever it might be. I am your girl to help you get out of your own way and actually create your dream.
Oh my God, amazing. Okay, so just for like a little background, like so I want this episode, if people are listening, I want this to be really, really helpful for anyone who is either like thinking about starting a business or just thinking about creating something new in their life, or they have a business and they want to scale it. So we're going to get into all of that, but I would love to know, how did you get into this?
Yeah.
Like, when did you start?
Story.
Yeah.
And it's a winding story because I always tell my clients, I remind everybody, I reminded you this, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yes.
So things take time. But my background is I spent a decade in New York City. I was on the founding team of 2 7-figure startups in New York City. And while I loved those experiences so much, I always knew that I was meant to do something on my own. And I always had this kind of like burning desire to just like have my own business and be able to support women. Because what I found was that in my job as a leader in these startups, I was essentially coaching women. I always hired women, I always wanted to empower women. And so I knew kind of that there was something in there about like helping women really like step up and move up in the ladder and create lives that they loved. And so eventually I went to a coaching program, the Coactive Coaching School. And during that process, I had this vision that I really wanted to travel. Mm-hmm. And so I felt so empowered by the process that I had this idea. I'm just going to, tell my company that I want to take my job on the road. Mm-hmm. Now, this was in 2017, pre-pandemic, before anyone was really working remotely in this way. But my company said, we love this idea. Like you have the green light. So I spent a year and a half traveling around the world, studying with different coaches, healers, teachers, mentors, and really getting clear on my purpose and creating a process that helped me go from feeling lost, confused, disempowered, stuck to like, oh my gosh, I can see the pathway. And not only can I see it, but I'm creating it. So
amazing. Yeah.
That's how I kind of moved from feeling lost, stuck in New York, which is where a lot of my clients are. They really resonate with that, being in a corporate job, to, having my own multi-6-figure coaching business, being able to live wherever I want in the world. I just took a 3-month sabbatical in India and coaching amazing women like you to help them grow and scale and start their businesses.
Did you always know that you wanted to coach women in particular, and like why?
Yeah, it's actually funny because so when I first started coaching, I had 2 male clients.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's very interesting. And I actually have 1 male client who's been with me for a couple of years. And, he's my only male client. I do not market to men.
Yeah.
And the reason I like working with women is because like I get women.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how the male brain works. I don't think I ever will. It is so different. And like, I think men just need a very different type of support than I'm able to give. Like, I get like every single client I've ever had, maybe I haven't been in their exact circumstance, but I get it, Like,
yeah.
I've been in the trenches. I've been through it all. Like, I get it. And I just don't get men in the same way. So
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so funny because when I was like, I was always like pretty into like self-help content in one way or another. And when I was kind of like either growing up or like right post high school, like so much of self-help content was like so male-centered. And like honestly,
yeah,
to so much of it, like I just could not relate less. Like the advice was so, I was like, I hate this. Like, I think the main thing that always gets me is like that the men are always like, the men, I feel like a different speech is they're always like, oh my God, like how you get somewhere in life is like you just have to hate your life and current situation like so much and things like
yeah,
that. And like I just found that so unrelatable because like the more I hate my life, like the less I want to do. And like
yeah.
the more I hate myself, like the less I want to do. But you were talking a bit about because so you have a lot of clients that are like in this very stuck space. They come to you, they don't even have an idea yet. And at the same time, you've also coached a lot of women scale from like, let's say doing a couple of trips to a multi-seven-figure business.
Right.
We're going to get into both, but I definitely want to get into like if someone's just really feeling stuck, not in a good situation, like they hate their job, they hate their life, they hate their city, what is kind of the first step to get out of that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, I really empathize and sympathize with people and women, especially who feel like this, because what happens is that we just get on this hamster wheel. And the hamster wheel that I was on, and your listeners will probably see themselves in varying forms of this. It was basically like my job was so demanding
Mm-hmm.
that the thought of creating time to like figure out what's next felt so daunting and impossible. And
Mm-hmm.
so I stayed in a perpetual cycle of essentially like working 40 to 60-hour weeks, going to either soul cycle or happy hour, and then going home and crashing and then kind of doing it all over again. And then
Yeah.
on Saturdays, I would always promise myself, okay, I'm going to like look on LinkedIn or I'm going to like, revamp my resume. But I was so drained and exhausted that I just didn't have the capacity to do that. And so
Yeah.
the thing that I would say is that you have to get support. And
Mm-hmm.
I spent years trying to do it on my own, like reading books and listening to podcasts and things like that. And like, Anna, you're such a great testament to what's possible when you invest in yourself. Like
Yeah.
you can spin your wheels and you can feel stuck and lost and unsure, or you can literally quantum leap. And I kind of hate that term, but
Right.
you can take a massive leap forward in 3 months because women, the reason I love working with women to kind of tie it back to what you asked earlier
Mm-hmm.
is when we say we'll do something to someone else, 99% of the time we'll do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're so used to having to put other people, places, things before ourselves that
Mm-hmm.
if we're the only one holding ourselves accountable, we will put anything in front of that. So
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I would block, like literally I would block time on my calendar, like figure out my life on Sunday for 4 hours. And I was like, I'm going to go, the coffee shop in the West Village and just like figure out my life. But then a friend would need me or my mom would call or, something would come up. And I would always put that in front for two reasons. One, because I got a great sense of worthiness from helping others. And
Mm-hmm.
two, it wasn't that it was that I was unclear on what I wanted. And so taking action towards that felt petrifying,
Yeah. I
right?
think it's really challenging in a lot of ways too, because I feel like on some level, like when you're in that space, because I've definitely been there, like unfortunately more than once, where
Yeah.
like you also know, like when you're in that situation, like odds are a lot more like needs to change than you're ready for. You
Yeah.
know, if you want to get to the other side, it's gonna be you're gonna have to have a different job, probably live in
Yeah.
it, not necessarily, of course, and just if anybody's listening,
Things
this
are
is
going to
not
be shaken
necessary.
up,
You're gonna lose your friends. You might like
Yeah.
there's that fear too of like you might lose the relationship you're in and all these
Totally.
things where it just feels
Yeah.
like such a quantum leap. Like when women come to you and they're in that situation, what ends up kind of being like, since it can be like a massive leap, like what ends up being like the first step?
Yeah. So my approach is always like, what is the easiest, most least disruptive path forward possible?
Mhm.
Right. So like, I'm not a fan of like, let's move cities, quit your job, not have any income, break up with your boyfriend, ditch all your friends. Like that is just recipe for disaster. So
Yeah.
what I always look at is literally the basics. Like, what is your life like now? Like,
Mhm.
how are you, like literally things like, how are you sleeping? Like, are
Yeah.
you, scrolling yourself to sleep at night? Like
Never.
I let you slide on that, but
Honestly, I am trying to break it though. It's time. It's
but
time.
it impacts, so
Yeah.
look at your life. Like that's the biggest thing is like, for me, like my relationship with alcohol has really evolved. And that's
Mhm.
something like I see with a lot of my clients who are in this less so actually now than kind of pre-pandemic and during the pandemic. But I mean, alcohol for me, and I actually haven't really spoken publicly about this, but alcohol for me was probably my biggest issue.
Yeah.
And, I was easily drinking like 3 or 4 glasses of wine a night.
Yeah.
And it was keeping me in a cycle where I wasn't clear, I wasn't motivated. And instead of, maybe going to volunteer or take a class or a workshop or do something that felt exciting to me, I was going to Jake's Saloon on Ninth Avenue with my friends and drinking Chardonnay because
Yeah.
that was way more fun than signing up for the workshop. So again, it's like we look at, and it's not to say you can't drink. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
how can we create more balance? Like I think in one of our first sessions, we looked at that wheel of life, which is like,
Yeah.
look at all the different areas of your life, career, relationships, health, spirituality, money, like what
Mhm.
are all the different areas in your life and where do we need to just make some tweaks so that you're working from like a stabilized baseline?
Yeah.
Because until you're and this takes like one session for me to help people see what they need to do. And again, it's like it's not like we're like, okay, you're gonna run 9 hours a day. And it's not like we make these crazy changes. It's literally
Yeah.
like, can you not drink coffee at 6 p.m. so you're sleeping better? It's just these little tiny tweaks that just
Yeah.
baseline. And
Yeah.
then from that point, we can start looking at things like what is naturally like pulling at you? Like, what are you curious about? Because
Mhm.
for 90% of my clients who come to me in this kind of, like you said, I have the stuck category
Yeah.
and I have the kind of ready to scale fly like you category.
Mhm.
And in the stuck category, they come to me and they say, I don't know what I want. I'm not clear. I feel stuck. Once we smooth the baseline with, and it could be things from relationships to alcohol to, just scaling down on the number of hours you're working by choice. So many of my
Yeah.
clients are in corporate jobs and their worth is tied to their work. And I was like this
Yeah.
too. I volunteered for like, we need someone to take on this board meeting deck. And I was like, I'll do it. And everyone was like, God, Claire, you're amazing. We can always count on you. I was like, oh my God. Like my inner child was like, ding, 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 ding. So I teach my clients to stop saying yes to everything,
Yeah.
right? So that we have capacity and space to actually put themselves first. So again, first step is baseline, smoothing the foundations. And then we start looking at, okay, like where are you naturally curious? What's naturally exciting to you? And some people don't know. And then that's our work.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you have like you're coaching someone, you have them in a place now where, they've let go of like 2 to 3 dead weights. They're in a space where like they have time to dream. They kind of come up with an idea or something they want to do. I feel like to me, one of my biggest roadblocks in the beginning is like, let's say I wanted to do social media, like I knew, and now I know so many people who do social media or have these online businesses or do group trips or whatever. But in the beginning, I knew like literally no one, to the point where like it was so hard to convince myself that that was going to be possible for me to do full time. How do you help women through like that period where like they're in the way beginning, they're still working through like a situation they don't like, let's say still city job, etc. Like they're like, oh my God, this is never going to work out. How do you like help them through that piece?
Yeah. So I think, in my process for this type of client, as part of the kind of smoothing the foundations piece, we do a whole thing on mindset. And mindset is a word that's like thrown around in the coaching industry and kind of makes me eye roll because you can sit around and like quote, practice your mindset till the cows come home. So your mindset has to be matched with action.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like my big thing is, and you've spoken to this, like when in working with me is like, I really bridge kind of spiritual strategy and action.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the triangle that I play in. And so I do think that there is, I teach a neuroscience backed mindset method that is quite powerful and really does help you start to rewire your neural pathways. Because the thing is that your brain actually wants to choose what I call the higher self thought. Your brain wants to choose the thought that says, I want to be an influencer. I can do that. But your neural pathways are so programmed to choose, it would be really cool to be an influencer, but I don't even know anyone who does that. So it's not possible. That feels like a safer thought right now. And so what we have to do is start rewiring the brain. Well, how do you do that? You do that through taking action. So one of the things that I have my clients do is go out and find expanders, go out and find people, like you, Anna, who are like, or the other girls on Socially Ambitious who are like out doing the thing that you want to do and not looking at it from oh, I'll never get to where they are, but from okay, this is literally possible.
Yeah.
Like the thought that I can't do this is no longer valid.
Yeah.
So what's underneath that? And then we're actually, so I work with you on trying to disprove the thoughts that the limiting beliefs that are keeping you back while you start taking action. So coupled with that is maybe like you start your Instagram handle, like, okay, yay. And then your brain starts saying, ooh, that felt good.
Yeah.
Right? Like the dopamine of that is actually sexier than I'm just going to lay in bed and watch another episode of Love is Blind. No shame on that. But like, we need a balance.
Yeah.
So that's really, it's a combination of both mindset, learning my neuroscience backed technique and coupled with action. Because what I see so many girls doing, everyone's a wellness girl now, it seems like, but what I see so many people doing is like, they're reading the books, they're doing the podcast, they're listening to the mantras, they're saying the affirmations, like they're telling themselves they love themselves in the mirror. That's all great. But like, if you aren't taking action, you will not create a different result. Yeah. And that's why my clients really move forward quickly is because like, I am there being like, okay, what are the next 3 steps? When are you going to do them by? How will I know you've done them?
Yeah.
Like there's really no time for loosey-goosey, non-action.
Yeah. I feel like that's what I love about the internet is like, I feel like, they say like, you have to surround yourself with people who you want to be like, or you're top 5 people in your life. And feel like people don't get that doesn't necessarily need to be like people in person in your life, and even like, it's so bad to say, but like I work from home, like I am surrounded by people on the internet more than I am even surrounded by people in real life. Like it's just the reality. And what you consume has a really big impact. How do you then differentiate between like, okay, I'm holding myself back, I'm having negative beliefs, and like this actually is just not a viable business idea. Like this is just not a good idea. Like this is not profitable.
Yeah.
Like,
so the kind of like, so this is where we kind of have a branching of the client type.
Yeah.
Most of my clients, and the reason that I moved into business coaching, because originally I was helping women transition into different careers. But what I found is that like 99% of my clients, once they did the first 2 steps of my process, like the smoothing the foundation, the mindset, and then they started, clarifying what they actually wanted their life to look like. Very rarely was it, I just want to go work in another office job.
Right.
Like, I can count on one hand out of hundreds of women, the ones who genuinely did want that. And I love them and I supported them through that.
Yeah.
And they actually started side businesses, they wanted they wanted the 9 to 5, they wanted to kind of have something that, they didn't have to think about. And then they had a side business. So, to go back to your question, let's say we're talking about the women who are like, I want to start a cotton candy shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought of that. you know, let's say like, you know, or they want to start a candy shop.
Mhm.
So, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist
Mhm.
to check the viability of a business.
Mhm.
Now, I believe that when you're connected to your purpose, which is, you know, truly the thing that, you know, you were put on this earth to do, prosperity always follows.
Mhm.
You know, like I really believe like in your case, like you were a living embodiment of your purpose. Like,
Mhm.
and I think the people listening would agree, like you're meant to share, you know, you speak to, you know, of course, veganism and, you know, you help people see the world and you speak to like important political topics and social issues. Like that is why you're here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, and that's why you know, your businesses are thriving because it's aligned with your purpose. So I think that's the first thing that I really help people do because a lot of women come to me. For example, I had a woman come to me, this was a couple of years ago, and she said, you know, I want to start an online travel membership.
Mhm.
And we checked the viability of the business. And I said, okay, well, you know, this definitely can scale to six figures over time, given, you know, the active audience that you have. But I could tell that it wasn't like really the thing that she wanted. And so
Mhm.
I pushed back a little bit and I said, you know, why do you want to do this? And she was like, it just seems like the logical thing to create based on what I've done so far. And what ended up happening is that what she really wanted to do is she wanted to create a brick and mortar, essentially kind of a cooking experience school abroad. And she just broke ground on it. She's hosting it at another space now. But I mean, she created that and she's been featured in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Condé Nast. She's like the go-to in, you know, this area of
Right.
her. So a lot of women come to me like with one idea that's actually kind of small and just logical
Mhm.
versus the thing that seems a little bit out there and crazy and harder, quote, harder to create.
Mhm.
And so it's less about like that idea won't work. And it's like, where is this idea coming from? Because I really
Right.
believe that if you're tapped into your true purpose and the real reason that you're here and you create something from that place, there's really no possibility of it not working.
Yeah. I also feel like so many people like, of course, I definitely believe in like testing 1,000,000%, but I'm also like, to some extent, like people sometimes just can't see the vision that you can see. And even
Right.
like a lot of people were like, maybe you should just have like vegan friendly trips where like there's just a lot of vegan options and maybe so you can have like a wider audience. And definitely people were like, I don't think it's a good idea to like talk about politics on your page and things like that.
Right.
Yet those are the things that I feel like make the trip so special and
Yeah.
make the people so aligned. Do
Yeah.
you find that like a lot of people who come to you are kind of still in that like 9 to 5, like I can't quit my job mentality, or by the time they get to you, are they pretty much like accepted the fact that they want something different?
I think it's half and half. I think that most I no, I probably 50% of my clients are still in 9 to 5s when they come to me. I'd say 95% know that they don't want to be in a 9 to 5.
Okay.
So they know, but they just like can't see the way out. And
Right.
honestly, the biggest thing, and I think this is like important to mention is, you know, the biggest thing is like they're afraid to leave the financial security of a 9 to 5, which
Yeah.
I think, you know, is I get it because I took that leap and, you know, I was paid very well in my job.
Yeah.
Um, and it felt super scary. And that's why the process that I take women through never pull. I actually tend to work mostly with women who are in their 9 to 5,
Mhm.
and I help them compress their workday so that
Mhm.
they have more space. Because
Yeah.
I always say that for most of the clients I work with, your best is like your good enough is someone else's best.
Right.
So you don't actually need to work 10 hours a day.
Mhm.
You just get such a sense of worthiness from your work and
Mhm.
you don't know what else to do. And it's an incredible distraction from the fact that you feel unfulfilled, that you keep pouring into this job that's not actually part of your long-term plan or purpose.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of what I do in the beginning is help women create more space through boundaries with work through their 9 to 5. And then the path that I love is, we take the 9 to 5 and then we see if we can move it to a consulting role while we're building the business on the side. Or maybe we cut down on the hours, or maybe we move to a non-managerial role, or, we just look at how can we create more space. A lot of my women, and I did this, like, they had their full-time job alongside their new business until the income of their new business matched. And then they felt super secure to leave the 9 to 5.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because I think what scares most women is they're like, if I start something new, I'm going to lose the, X amount paycheck every month. And that's not true. But if you don't start building now, you'll never get anywhere. So I love when women are building alongside their 9 to 5.
I love that. And so when someone, kind of like last question around this topic, then we'll move on to scaling, but what are some things, like if someone comes to you as a client, what are like things that people do well in that stage? And then what are like common mistakes that people make that you see that are like really holding them back? And maybe it's stuff we've already gone over, but I'm just curious, like what is going to make someone the most successful in that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is your willingness to go all in. So, and that's why, again, like the first thing is to get support. Like, I don't think anybody should try to make any big change or leap or build a business on their own. It will literally take you like at least double the time.
Yeah.
So, the women I see, everybody, when they come to me, they're all in the beginning. And I see a lot of women as we start moving forward. I shouldn't say a lot. I see some women as we start moving forward, I can tell they're like, oh my God, this is getting real. It's happening. And then they start making excuses like, this life event happened or this big thing happened. And I always like to speak to like, can you become an and woman instead of an or woman? So can you be building your business, transitioning out of your job and be, going through a personal matter, or, your husband is, going through a transition, or, you're looking for a new school for your child, or, you're focused on your health, or, you're on a new workout plan. Like, can you hold both? Because so many of us will look for any excuse of like why we can't do two big things at once. I actually find that like, the recipe for success is like, can you just go all in on you?
Yeah.
And not be afraid of like you said, because things are going to get shaken up. So the women who are unafraid and who trust the process and who trust that like everything is always working out for them. That's the biggest thing. And it's scary to do that.
Mindset.
Mindset. But it's like at the end of the day, I honestly can't think of in my life or in any of my clients' lives when something has happened and it hasn't been in their highest good in some way.
Yeah, it is really true. And I know like I laugh because I think like in our like consultation call, I was like, I don't want a better mindset. Like I just want money. Like I think I said something along those lines.
Yeah.
But everything with mindset is really so true because especially like in the first group trips I was launching or in my very early stages of, being full-time doing this, like there were so many, like, I just realized what a mindset shift I've had in the past, like year, 6 months, where like in the beginning, I was so like, okay, well, this month is like bad. And I would kind of panic and be like, okay, I can like get another job at a restaurant or something. And and I think that's amazing. And I'm so grateful that I would have that to fall back on no matter what. Like, I'm so grateful for that. But I just feel like my mindset is so different now where I'm just like, it's going to work. We'll do this. We'll do this. We're like, instead of kind of like giving up everything and trying to like start from square one. And even in terms of, when you're launching these products, like, especially when they're like so from your heart, like I like can't handle it. Like I've had to take breaks from everything multiple times because I'm just like, if someone says something negative or like, I know I need to be in a better headspace before I start launching this, because like if something negative happens, like I just will and that's obviously something to work on, but it's better than not launching it at all, of just like taking a
Totally.
minute.
Totally. Yeah.
And on that note for scaling, so like once somebody has a business idea, it's working. I know this is kind of like another track. I know you kind of coach people from group A to group B, but let's say, for example, I know when I came to you, I had done like 2 group trips, did pretty well, but like definitely knew I wanted to scale. What's like your main approach when someone comes in like that? They have a business, but they want to scale it. Like what's the first step?
So this is like super simple, and people love, one of the things I really stand for is like, how easy can we make this? Like, just because most women / people are really good at solving complicated problems doesn't mean that everything is a complicated problem. Like, business is super easy, and it really comes down to 3 things. The first thing is, do you have an irresistible product? Like, have you created a product that people want and that they want to throw their money at? That's like the first thing. So that's the first thing that we look at. And then the second thing we look at is like, how are you marketing your product? Like, how are you sharing your product with people? And are you sharing it in a way that they're like, oh my God, that's the answer to my prayer. Like, that's exactly what I need. Like, I've always wanted to go to Guatemala and I'm vegan, but I've been so afraid to go because I've never left the US. Like, oh my God, she just answered my prayer.
Yeah.
It becomes an easy yes. And then the third thing we look at is the energetics behind it. So like, are you 100% behind what you're offering? Or are you like, I think this is good, but I don't know if people want it, because that is going to botch the whole thing. So we really have to have these 3 pieces in place. And I honestly, like, please, someone prove me wrong. Find me a business that has these 3 things on lock and it's not doing well.
Yeah.
Because I haven't found one, and I look.
What's the most common one? Like, do you find that most people have a good product and they're shy about it? Do you find that like sometimes the products are just like, it's just not the vibe? Like what do you find is kind of like the main issue that ends up needing to be tweaked?
I think the biggest issue is the marketing and like, how are they sharing it? And that there's obviously layers and tiers that I work with people in within the marketing piece, but it's like, first of all, like, are you out there? I can't tell you the number of people who like, they're like, oh, I want to start a jewelry company. So they do one Instagram post on the necklace that they've made, and they have like 500 followers, and they do one post and they don't even share it to their stories because they're so afraid of like, their Aunt Susie seeing it. And then they're like, no one bought it. It's a bad product.
Yeah.
So that hits all 3 areas. We've got an energetic issue. You're not 100% behind what you're offering. We've got a marketing issue. You share once and then you throw in the towel and you half share, right? You're not like really going out there with a cohesive launch marketing plan that gets people excited and ready to buy. And then, your product can be great, but if no one's seeing it, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the biggest thing I see is that women are like half in, half out. They're afraid of being seen. They're not consistent. I mean, especially if you want an online business, like, you have an online business, you need to show up every day and you need to be in front of people saying like, here's what I have to offer. Here's how it'll help you. This is why this is the answer to your prayer.
Yeah. I feel like
most women don't do that.
Yeah. I literally like, it's crazy because I feel like we always feel like we're like oversharing. I still get messages like all the time that are like, I had no idea you did group trips. And I'm like, okay. Or I get messages all the time from women because I'm on this other woman's like online course. It's like a success story for something. She has like my testimonial on there, my Instagram's on there.
Yeah.
And about like a brand deal I did. And I get messages all the time, like, how did you get that brand deal? And I'm like, have you literally ever pitched yourself to a brand in your entire life? And they're literally like, no, like,
exactly.
Well,
yeah. And I mean, I think that that's like a great case study, like, and I have the same thing. I literally talked to a girl 2 days ago who I was connected through a network I'm in. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize that you help women build businesses. And I was like, did you look on my Instagram literally says, I help you clarify your purpose and build your dream business. Like
Yeah.
all of my content is geared towards that, but literally people just do not connect the dots. And
And
so
I
it's your job to educate them.
Yeah, and I've literally never gotten a message ever that was like shut up about the group trips or shut up. Like I've
Yeah,
never gotten that. And
no,
honestly, like it's my side of the internet. Like this is a
totally,
dictatorship. Like that you can
totally.
leave. Like if it's too much, like
Yeah.
the
I mean,
whole
I
point.
always tell my clients, like, you should want to mute yourself.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
should want that's how because especially, and I mean, you know this more than anyone, like the algorithm is not showing you to every single person all the time.
No, and have you ever seen someone like I go through stories like this? Like I'm not like
Yeah.
reading
I'm
every single word.
totally.
I can't even remember the last time I like read somebody's caption. Like
Yeah.
truly, like
Well,
ever, you
truly,
know.
yeah. And so
Uh
I think that's the thing. And I want to, like, on an encouraging note, tell people that, you know, usually we have one of the three pillars, product, marketing, energy. We have one that's really needing attention. And then the other two are in pretty good shape. And once we adjust one, everything clicks. And that's what
yeah,
happened to you.
yeah,
You
for
know, like,
sure.
and that's what happens to most of my clients. It's like, it's not like we have to completely reinvent the wheel and like create a whole new business. It's just like, okay, like, let's look at, I mean, again, like someone go find me a business that, you know, doesn't have these three
Hmm.
or that has these three and it's not working. It will work.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
building a business is not complicated. You just don't have the support and the expertise to do it in a way that makes it feel easy. And then you want to quit.
Hmm. How do you dictate like kind of long-term success in that way of like continued scaling? Because I know you have clients that have now like you've started with them years and years ago and they're still in business. They're now like massive companies. What do you find dictates like long-term success? And when someone comes to you initially, are you like, can you tell like how successful they're going to be or not? Or, you know, are you like, no?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the biggest thing that I think there's a few things. I think one is, again, I really believe that if you're creating your business from a place of purpose, there's infinite scaling opportunity. You
Hmm.
know, and I'll use myself as an example. Like, you know, now I have a few different products. You know, I have my one-on-one, I have my business accelerator, I have retreats, I
Hmm.
do challenges. I could very easily extend into podcasting, TV shows, you know,
Right.
like books. Like I could, there's infinite scaling opportunity because I'm so tapped into like what I'm put here to do. You know, I could start leading, you know, I could start a travel business. Like I
Mhm.
could start, you know, a retreat center. Like literally I could do any of those things.
Mhm.
And so I think for me, like I can really tell when a woman is playing small. You
Mhm.
know, like the woman who wanted just came to me to start an online membership. That didn't have scaling potential because it wasn't the thing that she was really meant to be doing. But
Yeah.
what does have scaling potential is what she literally just bought land and broke ground on yesterday. I have to share it
Mhm.
on my Instagram, you
Yeah.
know, like, and has been featured all over, you know, every top media outlet as kind of like the go-to resource for this region of the country where her facility is. Like that has infinite scaling potential.
Mhm.
Right. So we have to kind of fit into and you know, everything I said about me is possible for you too,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And so I think for me, like I'm really looking for helping women create, tap into, clarify the thing that they can't not create. Because from that place, like everything is just a web and you can create any number of products. And as long as you have, again, that those three pillars, the killer product, irresistible marketing, and dialed in energy, it will work.
What do you say to the people who are like, I, you know, want to live a better life, like I want to get out of my thing, but like nothing calls to me. I'm not passionate about anything. I don't know. What do you say to those people?
I think there's two things. I think one, look at your life. So like what are the, you know, and you put it great, like what are the three dead weights
Yeah.
you can cut? What are the three sandbags that you
Mm.
can cut? And once you cut those, like you will have so much more capacity and space. And then I would say get support because if you're spinning your wheels, and support doesn't have to be, you know, the form of a coach. It could be, you know, I remember when I was first starting, like I found a woman who was kind of in a similar spot as me, and she was like my accountability partner.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, and we both wanted to get out of our jobs. And so we met once a week, you know, for like 6 months or something. And that I could have moved way faster through that process with a coach versus a friend. But if, you know, from a financial perspective or whatever reason, coaching isn't accessible for you, then like find a friend.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to move on your own and get out of your own way. I think that's like the number one thing is like, do whatever you can to get in the room with people. And there's so many, you know, coaching programs and coaches and memberships and things like that out there that make it accessible. Get in the room with people who are moving in the direction that you want to move.
Yeah.
Don't
I feel like,
start far.
yeah, I feel like also, you know, just to kind of follow on top of that too, just to follow what you're interested in. Like I never woke up one day and was like, I am going to have an online course teaching people how to be an influencer's assistant. I literally, my cousin hosts retreats and she was like, you should do a vegan retreat. And I was like, no, like it did not appeal to me at the time. Like what appealed to me, like what was making me curious was social media and posting on social media. And then that was what led me to be an influencer's assistant. And then that was kind of what led me to go to Guatemala and just post more about vegan travel. And then that's what led into that. Like it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to wake up with a 7-figure business idea tomorrow.
You very rarely do. And, you know, I skipped this part of my story just in the interest of time, but I'll share like when I was on my around the world journey, you know, and studying with different teachers and healers and coaches and things like that, I also filmed an entire travel TV pilot because I was like so sure in Medellin. Yeah. I was like so sure. I was like, I want to be a travel TV host. I started a travel app because I was traveling and I was like, oh my God, like I see an opportunity. Like there's so many people that want to connect all over the world, but like we're all so disconnected.
Yeah.
Right. I started hosting women's circles and I like something about that was like so exciting for me. Right. Like I was doing all these different things that, you know, lit me up. And ultimately I literally went to the help desk at the co-working space I was living in Bali. And I was like, I work for an education company and I'm interested in coaching. Do you know any like opportunities to help the community?
Yeah.
And they were like, we just got a call 5 minutes ago. There's a kid who just got a job opportunity. He needs help preparing his resume and his interview. And I was literally on my scooter 5 minutes later, arrived at this like center for Balinese youth. And I started career coaching this kid named Andre for a month. And like, he got this amazing job and he's like making more money than anyone in his village right now. Like, I mean, it's crazy. You can't make this stuff up. So a lot of the process is just like, okay, I'm going to follow this. You know, I call it following the opening. Like, what is the easiest thing? Like, what is the most clear next step? Like, is it going on Instagram? Is it creating a travel TV show? Like, you know, is it starting a blog? Like you just take the next step and then that will lead you. It's following the breadcrumbs. Very few people literally are like, I'm going to create an online course, vegan trips, and, you know, have this influencer assistant podcast or whatever, you know, and like, I'm going to go create that. It doesn't work like that. You have to get in the thick of your life and start taking action and just start doing it. And the path will unfold. But it doesn't unfold from, you know, your bed scrolling on Instagram.
No, it does not. And that's actually funny that you say that because I even remember kind of at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like I was like, I don't think I have like any passions in life. Like I just don't.
I felt that way too.
Yeah, it happens. It's, you know, rural New Jersey is not the most place that really sparks the imaginative vibes. And I remember I was just literally bored and I was like, okay, I'm going to start learning Spanish on the computer. And then that was what ended up leading, because then I had studied Spanish for 9 months of the pandemic. And I was like, okay, I can't just leave it at that. Like I need to finish it. I'm not going to forget it. And then that was what led me to do the language immersion program in Guatemala.
Right.
And then that was kind of like, I feel like, and that was like, I was like, okay, I can't scroll through my phone anymore. Like, I can't just like sit here and be sad about being in a pandemic. Like, I mean, I can, but like, again, for a minute for sure. But And then that kind of path like led very naturally to that. And I feel like that definitely does happen when you follow the opening or just follow what is interesting to you.
And I always say like the right people, places, things will appear. Like one of my favorite quotes is, you know, when you walk out onto the way will appear. And I have seen that time after time after time after time with my clients, like, and even, you know, in dating, like I see this all the time with people, like, you know, when you start walking out onto the way and you get out of your own way and you move into a place of action, like, you know, it's the craziest opportunity falls in your lap.
Yeah,
Right?
it is
Like
true.
it happens and it's incredible, but you have to move, you have to start moving.
It is, yeah, that's very true. So if someone, okay, I'm curious too. So if someone, because I definitely grew up in like a place where like coaching or getting support was very normal. And like my mom is like a big proponent of like invest in yourself. If someone's new, they're looking for a coach, like what are the different determining factors? Not only like if they need a coach, but also like what format is best for them. Like you said, again, there's so many different options, but it can also be like paralyzing. There's one-on-one, there's like group coaching, there's memberships. How do you decide where to even start?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So the thing, and I'll speak to my experience, like, you know, and I've had so many coaches over the years. Like, I think the thing that I always look for is like, is this coach living, leading, and, you know, creating things that are aspirational or feel in alignment or feel exciting to me? So like, I probably am not going to be attracted to, you know, a coach who's like promoting, you know, 60-hour work weeks and, you know, stay in your career, right? Like that's not exciting to me. So many of my clients are, you know, either nomadic or they, you know, have been nomadic. Like my lifestyle, I've lived all over the world. I've lived in Mexico City the last several years, but you know, I just took a 3-month sabbatical to India. Like my whole thing is like, can you work less and make more?
Yeah.
You know, that's something that like really appeals to women. And so I think like one thing, you know, and of course you only see half the story on Instagram, but again, like I'm pretty real on Instagram. Like I'm pretty, you know,
I know
I'm
people
not,
always like Instagram is so fake. I'm like, mine's
yeah,
real.
like, I mean, I'm pretty like upfront with what's happening, but I think you can feel. So I think the first thing is like, you know, do you connect with this person's story, where they've been and where they are now? That's like the first thing I would look at. You know, the other thing I just out of you know, integrity feel called to say is like coaching is an unregulated industry.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have worked with coaches who don't have training or certification. I went to a 2-year coaching program. I got like the Harvard of coaching certifications because that felt really important to me. Again, not critical, but I think it's something worth looking at. You know, like, is this someone who just decided yesterday, I think I can be a business coach, I'm going to put myself on Instagram?
Yeah.
So like I would look at, you know, who this coach is and, you know, what is their training and their career history. And the other thing I really look for is like the client results. Are they helping people like me get to where I want to go?
Yeah.
Like that's really important because if they're not, then like, what's the point? And then in terms of the format, you know, I used to mostly do one-on-one and now like I'm really doing a lot of group work because I find that women get so lit up by each other by building businesses in group containers. And that's why, you know, the Dream Accelerator, which is my business building accelerator, it's so powerful because you have a community. So I think you need to look at where you are. Like, do you really have a unique situation that kind of needs one-on-one support, or are you someone who really thrives in community because maybe you don't have that?
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, and I think the other thing I'll just mention, because I see this happening in the coaching industry and it just out of integrity, like I think the whole point of coaching is individualized support. So for me, like joining a membership where I'm never going to have contact or interaction with the coach that I'm paying, to me isn't going to really support someone in the stages that we've talked about. The lost stuck stage, like you really need someone who's going to be in there with you.
Mhm.
So signing up for, like a $10 a month membership where, you're getting like automated lessons can be helpful. But I think the most impactful type of coaching is where, the expert is actually like knows your name
Yes,
at a minimum,
for
which
sure.
in a lot they don't. So those
Yeah.
are kind of the thing. I would look at the coach, who they are. Are they living and leading in a way that excites you and you aspire to? What are their results? Have they helped people like you?
Mhm.
And then format, I would look at like, is this actually going to be somewhere where someone is supporting me, or am I just joining it to say that I did something?
Yeah, that's a really important one. And I think that's because I feel like sometimes there's two types of people. Like there's people that desperately need a coach and could have saved 4 years of their life if they
Yeah.
just like got over themselves, or like 10 years of or their entire life.
Yeah.
They just kind of got over themselves. And then on the other end, I feel like I also know a lot of people who blanketly like throw money at like the next thing
Yes.
in hopes that it'll like save them.
Fix it. Yeah.
And I've made that mistake before too, because especially when you're in that point where you don't even know what you need, like it's
Yeah.
easy to just be like, and then if you end up with someone that is not as invested in your journey, like it is,
Yes.
because again, at the end of the day, like truly the accountability is on you, like you have to do the
Yes.
work. But I think that was such a big mistake that I made in like picking coaches previously, is like that I wasn't clear with what I needed, and that's
Yeah.
my bad. But like, I remember right before I found you, like, because there's two types, like there's like the mental aspect of coaching, and then there's actually like the support in terms of like literal advice. And so that to me was so important when I met you, is I was like, because I'd worked with someone before who was maybe okay at like the mental, you're better, but like at the mental aspect. But I was like, I would ask like, what payment platform should I use, because all of them suck. And like,
Right.
she didn't know because she had never worked in that travel space. And
Right.
sometimes people don't need that necessarily. Like there's plenty of like I think at this point now, like I wouldn't need that because I
Right.
know those basic
Created
things.
it. Yeah.
And maybe like someone just needs support, but I'm like, if you do need that, you do need to be with some, and even like with you, like, I feel like I just literally saved so much money, like, because I would be like, okay, where do I go in Mexico for this and this? Or like when you're traveling, like digital nomad wise, like, what insurance, I like asked you for insurance recommendations. I was like,
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean,
things like that.
yeah, it's true. And I think, looking back, I think what I would say is like, and I actually always did one-on-one coaching. Like I would say go veer towards one-on-one or small group first.
Mhm.
Because when you're in the beginning of this journey, you're just going to need more support. That's just how it is. So, I hate when I see people, and I won't say the name, but like I hate when I mean, I'd say 75% of my clients come to me either saying I've had so many coaches and none of them, kind of like you, like none of them have actually helped me create what I want to create, or I signed up for X very well-known program and it was like, follow the modules and, good luck.
Yeah.
And they got zero results because they just got so overwhelmed and they actually never even ended up opening the course. So but those coaches have amazing sales funnels and things like that, which, I love that for them, but that is not going to help the type of woman who's been stuck for 5 years suddenly, leap into action. Clicking video modules. Sorry, it's just not.
No, for sure. And I think that's also something that people like have to be honest. I think so many people also beat themselves up over it of like, oh, I should just be able to, if I just got to it or whatever. But I definitely feel like in the beginning, you just need so much more. Like you just don't know.
You don't know.
I didn't know any. Yeah, I didn't know anything, and I didn't even know what I needed. But I definitely would agree that in the beginning, especially when you're making those massive changes. And especially too, like when I was making those massive changes, like I went through a breakup, I went through a friendship breakup with like a group of my friends that like, we were all so close since forever. And like, I was no longer friends with them. Like I was going through like a complete career change, like, especially when you, and honestly, like, I don't feel like, I mean, I'm so lucky to have a great support system, but like literally no one in my life like got it at all. And that's something that is definitely hard.
That I think is, and like, actually, we haven't touched on that, but I just want to speak into that. Like, everyone in my life, except one person who's one of my mentors, told me I was absolutely insane because I
Yeah.
walked away from a $250,000 job opportunity. I walked away from a gorgeous apartment in New York City. I walked away from like a C-suite,
You had the washer dryer.
I had a washer dryer. I had, the dishwasher. I had a doorman. Like, I mean, I was literally like living the dream and like on track to be C-suite, before 32.
Yeah.
So everyone in my life was like, what are you doing? Especially, I love them, most members of my family.
Yeah, for sure. I just so funny.
Yeah.
My dad, we laugh about it now, but like my dad was so supportive when I wanted to be an actor. He was like, this is amazing. And then when I was like, okay, I want to do social media, he was like, are you sure that's like a job?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
God bless. He's like in his 70s. Like he would never, I don't think
You
he
just
knows
didn't
how to
get
use
it,
Yeah.
But I think that's really important because, you are the sum of the 4 people you're with.
Yeah.
And I had no models in my life of people, again, 2017, people who were living and working remotely, people who I didn't know anyone who had their own business. All my friends were in corporate.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone who was like in the coaching sphere.
Mhm.
And then, I joined this work remote program that all of a sudden I had a community of people who were, living the digital nomad life, who had their own businesses, who, had the freedom lifestyle, who literally I was like, I think I want to be a coach. And they were like, that's perfect for you. Like, how can I help? Like, let's set up your website. Like literally the logo that I have today, my friend Todd Weinberger, I love him. He designed it for me. He was like, I'm going to help you build this website because you are meant to do this. Like, I get chills when I think about it. Like, I didn't have that.
Yeah, for sure. And now it's funny because I know so
different.
many people who are in this space or whatever.
Most
I'm
of
like,
my friends, like
yeah.
I can count on one hand, like my very close friends who are in corporate, like
Yeah.
most of them are entrepreneurs. And like, they're the ones when I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to invest in this, this coach. They're like, just do it. You always get 10x back every time.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Versus if I said, if I told my mom how much I paid for coaching, she would fall over. So I think that's very important is like, who are you? And that goes back to that step 1 of like the baseline. Who are you surrounding yourself with? And that doesn't mean we need to get rid of, your best friends. It just means like, can we add an accountability partner? Can we add a group, a community of people who are headed in the direction or already in the direction that you want to go?
Yeah.
Because that shows you it's possible.
Yeah. And like, especially in the age of social media, like reach out to people and see if you can make some friends.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. So as we're wrapping up, tell us all about how we can work with you. I know you have so many different ways to work with you, which I love. Tell us all about it.
Yes. So the best way to work with me is in my business accelerator. It's called the Dream Accelerator. It is the idea to launch. So in 4 months, we literally go from idea to launch. So you will have website, socials, marketing plan, launch plan. I'm going to teach you how to sell and how to offer your products. We will dial in, your marketing, your product, your energy, all the things. And we move fast. It's in a group. And it's just a really incredible community. You can come in and like do the damn thing. That's what I always say. It's like, we don't waste time. So if you have, or you think you have an idea, that the first module is all about clarifying your idea. Mm-hmm. So I give you time to like really get clear on, your purpose, your values, all of that. And then we move into really execution mode. So it's so fun. I mean, I've had women create every type of business under the sun, travel businesses of every kind, like wallpaper companies, jewelry companies, coaching businesses, consulting businesses. I mean, it's incredible what people come up with. And there's nothing better than like in 4 months, you're like, oh my God, I have a website, I'm making money. I have social media. I know how to offer what I have. Like, you're so proud. It is the most incredible thing. And it would probably take you 2 to 3 years to do what I help you do in 4 months. And you know how I am. I'm to the point. So
Yes.
It's amazing. So if you're interested in that, you can DM me. I'm sure you'll share links to everything. And
Yes.
as listeners of the show, just mention that you come from Socially Ambitious, and I have a special offer just for you guys.
Yay. Oh my God. We love that. And yes, Claire is very, very nice. Do not be scared to slide into her DMs.
No, I love hearing from you.
And definitely make sure you're following her because she also always does these really cool challenges, which are literally so affordable. I'm in one right now. It's the 14-day Dream
Clarity Challenge.
So she always drops her training and she always does like lives on Instagram. Her content is really, really super, super helpful. And even if you're just thinking like, this is what I'm thinking about, I don't know what to do, I don't know what is right for me, she does not bite in the DMs.
Yeah. Please DM me, follow me, and tell me where you came from so I can connect with you too.
Yay.
I love hearing from you guys.
And then as we wrap up, what's one thing you're just excited about?
Well, I'm excited because the Dream Accelerator is about to launch again, which I'm just so excited about. We have over 50 women in the challenge, and it's just incredible to see, women who came in like, I don't know what my dream is. And, literally within 5 days through my process, they're like, oh my God, I know. And I'm just excited for so many of them to come into the accelerator.
Yay.
And build their dream. I mean, how cool is it? Like, let's just take a minute. Like, you can literally create anything and make money doing it.
Yeah.
Like, there's this woman, her name's Bia, and she literally sells an online course teaching you how to pose in a way that like makes you look hot.
Oh my God, I love that.
Like, you can literally make money doing anything. It's a gift. And like, I think inside of every woman is a business that will set her free. And like, I'm most excited to just help as many women as possible create that and create the lifestyle that they want, like we have.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy to have you. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
See you soon.